Vince, good to talk with you again.
Ditto. Back at you.
You
Are we
know,
making any progress?
I don't know because every day there's a new headline, and you and I have been talking, and again, the latest, they've been shuffling the deck at the Department of Justice. Ken Melson is out as acting director, reassigned to a position at DOJ. Then you have the U.S. Attorney in Arizona, Dennis Burke, resigning. Um, is this just part of the ongoing cover up? Is this the way they do business at DOJ?
Well, you know, I work specifically for ATF. My institutional knowledge is within the agency. Clearly, the moves, the protectionist moves, Gillette, Newell, McMahon, those who've testified already, and clearly moving Mr. Melson out of the hot seat would suggest historically and institutionally putting them in those positions to retain their pay, get them out of the limelight would absolutely suggest that they're just shifting, trying to take the limelight off, trying to put down the story and the actions of those managers.
When you
Anybody else would be on administrative leave, relieved of duties with the outrageous conduct already identified through the hearings.
and that's so
At least
true.
at least pending due process. I mean, they have a right to due process just like anybody else in the agency or in the government. But for them to be drawing full salary in created positions is pretty despicable.
Yeah. And you've got Congressman Issa and Senator Grassley saying, hey, all we want is for the people involved to be held accountable. Do you think that's really ever going to happen?
I believe. Otherwise, you know what? I've wasted 30 years of my life carrying a gun and a badge. It isn't a perfect system, but our system is still the best. And there is ultimately got to be accountability, or we're just going to continue running into this iceberg. This ship is going to sink.
Well,
It has to be, because the industry is looking, the field, the agents and inspectors are looking, and the American people are looking, and there's absolutely no way to restore any confidence in this Bureau's future is dismal if there's not serious accountability on the part of the leaders in this agency.
because I was going to ask you, there's some people already saying, hey, we got to do away with the ATF. Your concerns about where this agency is headed?
I'm absolutely concerned. My only concern has ever been, at least publicly, for the advancement of this agency. We watch it getting out of control. We watched the lack of leadership and the self-promoting going on for years. We've exposed it. When I say we, there's been dozens of us. I went on CNN at great risk to myself, only protected by my reprisal and retaliatory rules and laws that protect me in speaking out, and my whistleblower protections. And that's one of the components they're using to terminate me now, which we now know everything I said was factually correct. It was supported by documentation. Although Mr. Melson vehemently denied it, I think the amount of complaints that have gone unresolved and the amount of people who are coming forward are now showing that we were exactly right, that this agency has been out of control for quite some time.
I got to ask you, because as you said, first it's Operation Fast and Furious. Now we've got this grenade gate, as they're calling it, a similar situation. You've got ATF agents arresting this man from Arizona, still allow him to walk free, even though he admits that he's been making IEDs for the cartels, is just another example, isn't it, of what's going on? I mean, is this about pushing an agenda for more gun control to make the numbers work?
I've heard that speculation, and I can't say, they don't discuss policy with me. That's not my job. But it clearly shows that there's, be it for self-promotion and control of positive media, or whether it's to advance gun control or whatever, it's ill-advised regardless. There's no justification for taking any such action. And that one particularly, now it would appear that, again, they're trying to scapegoat the agents involved instead of the leaders who clearly I specifically had a conversation the day this all came up. Couldn't talk about it because it was classified. Wouldn't talk about it because it was classified. Obviously, it's all over the newspapers now. I'm assuming it's not classified anymore. The attaché to Mexico at the time, Darren Gill, was beside himself and vehemently opposed letting that occur with those hand grenade holes and what have you. And he was told directly, look, this comes from Melson, Hoover, and Chait. If you oppose this, you'll be removed from Mexico immediately.
Yep,
He was ordered to allow that to occur, and it sickened him.
Yep,
and I know that because I talked to him when it was happening.
Yeah. You know, and you got AG Holder again at the press conference saying, hey, he didn't know anything about it. And he says the notion that somehow this thing reaches into the upper levels of the Justice Department and is something that, you know, he says it's not supported by the facts. How high do you think this really went?
Well, you know, that's for Chairman Issa, Senator Grassley, and now apparently Senator McCain to figure out. I know what I have been involved in, and I know what I've exposed. Clearly, U.S. attorneys don't resign if it didn't reach outside of ATF and there wasn't culpability. How high it went, you know, the facts will bear it out. There's enough people that, you know, you can't cover up. You got to come transparent. You got to admit when you're wrong, and when you don't, and such as Chairman Issa has done, they start digging. There's emails. There's witnesses who were present when conversations were had. They will find out exactly how high this goes. Clearly, there's information on the record that it went outside of ATF into the Department of Justice.
Yeah. Well, and I've talked with Congressman Issa, and he's planning on 2 more hearings before the end of the year. Who would you like, if you had any say, who would you like to see on that witness list at some of these hearings to come? Well,
again, my primary concern is the livelihood of ATF, its agents, its future, restoring its institutional credibility because, notwithstanding the fact that I'm a career ATF agent, I love this agency, and I think it's probably one of the most effective agencies in fighting violent crime in the country. But there's got to be some accountability. Why have we not seen Deputy Director Billy Hoover in front of the panel? Why is Mark Chait? He's our go-to guy. Nothing could have happened here without our go-to guy. Why aren't internal affairs people who have received all of the allegations with documentation from myself, from Jay Dobbins, from Dodson, from Jaquez, from all the whistleblowers who have reported outrageous criminal conduct on the part of senior managers in ATF? Why aren't they being called to the carpet and having their investigations scrutinized?
Mm-hmm. I got to
ask.
Had
they done investigations and forwarded as they would on any field agent, many of those managers would have been relieved, and Fast and Furious would not have happened.
Yep, and that is so true. And that's what you hear so many of these whistleblowers saying. They shouldn't have happened, and it was allowed to happen, and it shouldn't have happened. But, there's so many in Congress right now and in the media, and they're saying, hey, they're blaming this scandal on the fact that ATF hasn't had a permanent director and that the NRA, they're singling out the NRA for blocking nominees like Andrew Traver. I mean, is it really because they don't have a permanent director?
Oh, the DEA went for years without a permanent director. ICE, the same thing. Permanent, what difference does it make? If we have a chain of command, as tragic as it was when Ronald Reagan was shot. And, of course, JFK. The country doesn't get to shut down. We don't have lack of accountability. There's no accountability, and we get to blame the successes or the failures of the country because our appointed leader or our permanent leader is removed. We have a chain of command. There shouldn't be a number 2 guy if he can't be the number 1 guy, a heartbeat away, as they say. Acting or otherwise, they still have an obligation. If we don't have competent people at the top that can fill these voids until Congress or the appropriate authorities, finalize something like that, well, then probably they shouldn't have been in those positions to begin with.
And they're singling out the NRA. hey, it's the NRA that's blocking these things.
Well, I mean, clearly the NRA has impacted. In the case of Michael Sullivan, and then more recently Andy Traver. But last I checked, Congress runs this country, the president runs this country, not you guys at the NRA states. You have a voice and you have a valid concern. But this business that you can make or not make a nominee, they just have not been forthcoming with any real solid, clear-cut, neutral, enforcement-minded nominees.
Yeah, you got it. All righty, well, we'll see what happens, and let us know how things go with you. And
well, I got about 8 days, and my response is due for my termination regarding my whistleblower activities, and we'll see how that goes.
All right.
Whether the guys on the bottom get scapegoated or whether there's actually going to be accountability at the top.